This is like a massive portal opening for the potential of many, many, many more souls waking up.
As a world-renowned astrologer, I'm interested, Bracha, in your perception of the energy of 2022 and beyond, and what you see the energy as changing as time goes forward. Like, what can we expect energetically?
We've got a very special aspect, April 12th. Jupiter and Neptune come together in Pisces. This is like a massive portal opening for the potential of many, many, many more souls waking up and seeing that there are more possibilities, infinite possibilities on this planet Earth that they've not explored yet. So this is like, wow, it's the beginning of a new story for planet Earth. And that's starting in a couple months' time.
Wow, okay. So what is the old story that's closing? What is that? What was that all about?
Well, the old story, we're seeing a lot of it playing out because we've got the United States Pluto return. Yep. February the 20th, again in July, again at the end of this year. And we're seeing old structures crumbling. Pluto in Capricorn, it's about structure, it's about power, it's about government, it's about trillionaires, and it's about structures that are not functioning for the vast majority. It's only for a very small percentage of elite who seem to have been running everything. And this is coming to an end. It's ending.
That is good news. So
it's great news, Aaron.
Thank you, Bracha. So yeah, I know that when I look out into the world, I see that there's a lot, I guess I feel that there's been a lot of control. And over the last so many years, I know I went through my awakening in 2012 and I started looking through a lot of this different kind of information. It became very apparent that possibly that there's an intention behind keeping people in like a fear-like mentality because it's like they're easier to control. But it feels like now what's happening is people are waking up to their own power, and it's almost like they're drawing boundaries, but they're not allowing it to happen. Is that how you see the energy as well, or is there anything you change with that?
Absolutely. I think it's like the polarity is increasing.
Yeah.
There are many who are still fast asleep and would like to continue to sleep.
Yes.
And don't want to be woken up, thank you very much, otherwise they're going to growl and bite you.
Yeah.
And at the same time, there's a growing wave of people who are saying, I want something different. I didn't come to be a slave.
Yeah. Yeah.
I came to do something that brings out the highest potential. And that's what I love about your work, Aaron, is that you are all about raising people's frequency, raising the consciousness on the planet, and you're helping people to do that. And that inspires me greatly.
Well, thank you, Bracha, and you're doing the same thing in your own way. So it's beautiful to see as well. So I appreciate you. And when I've heard you talk before, but what is the new Earth and what is the Aquarian age?
Okay, great questions. Thank you, Aaron. So we're moving away from the age of Pisces, which is the age of believing in a savior, that something outside of you is going to do it for you. And if you could just pray hard enough, and if you could just, do the right things and not go to hell or purgatory or wherever you thought you might go, something magical may happen, but it's outside of my power. So we've been trained. I mean, it's same in a school, a classroom, you've got to do this, you say that. Everything's been very top down. We've been told what to do.
Yeah.
Now, as we move to the Aquarian age, it's about freedom. It's about living your unique fingerprint and bringing that out. That's why the work you do, you're helping each person to bring out their highest possible frequency so that we can move to the new Earth, which will take us into technology that we can't even begin to dream of at this point.
And
perfect health, perfect well-being,
Yeah.
no diseases, food that is just so pure. Some may need food, some may not even need food. Yeah, we're going to live on different vibrations.
I feel you. And I love that.
And what about you, Aaron? What do you think the new Earth would look and feel like?
I think the new Earth is a new level of consciousness, not a new level of consciousness, but it's a paradigm where there is more power to the people. I think it's like people are waking up to who they are. I think there's a new paradigm to where people are going to be doing what they're passionate about. I think a lot of people have been working 9-to-5 jobs they hate, and they've been in this little box. I know earlier we were talking about these boxes and people don't like to feel like they're in boxes, you know? And I think that this new age is about people waking up and really living the life they came here to live. And it's a time of awakening. I think that we're all eternal spiritual beings living temporary human experiences, and people are waking up to that and then asking themselves, why am I here? And why am I settling for something that maybe I don't enjoy so much? And how can I create life on my own terms, you know, and also create I agree with you as well. It's a time of community and connection.
Yeah. Because the power of a group intention.
Yes.
It's just phenomenal what we can create with maybe just, I believe scientists say, just 10% of us.
Wow.
And completely change this Earth. And I mean completely.
Yes.
So, and each person has so much power.
Yeah.
And we don't realize it. You have power when you go and you buy something. That's power. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What you choose to buy, what you choose to spend your money on.
Yes.
What you choose to watch.
Yeah.
What games you choose to play, what Netflix you choose to watch. This is all power. These are all power choices.
Yeah.
And there's an awakening to, I didn't realize I've got this much power.
It's a whole new world. It's like in the
lab.
So thank you, Bracha. Another thing we were touching on a little bit ago, but I wanted to touch more on, was something that sounds a little bit more esoteric to my community, possibly. This is something, though, that maybe isn't as esoteric to both you and I, but that is, like when I went through 2012, I went through my awakening. I felt so connected when I started learning about different extraterrestrial races. And there was something about it that just resonated, even though it felt a little bit crazy and it felt kind of out there. But I always remembered I felt really connected to the Pleiadian star system. And I remember at one point I saw this like wallpaper of this triangle thing, and that was on my phone for a long time. And I've seen on your channel, and just knowing you in general, you at times channel the Pleiadians. So I was curious to learn more about the Pleiadians, your connection to the Pleiadians, and what that's about from your perspective.
Thank you, Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great question, and one that's been difficult, actually, in many ways, to keep having the courage to sharing messages from the Pleiadians. People seem to love them.
Yep.
But my very rational mind says, this is weird. This is super weird. Still, I've got a voice that says that. But how did it happen? Well, I had a spiritual awakening. And I didn't expect anything to come through. I must admit, it was like, I was just trying to channel. I thought, I'll give it a go. I hardly knew what channeling was. Mm-hmm. And you allow spirit to take the breath. And I said, spirit, take my breath, take over my lungs, just release, surrender.
Yeah.
And the biggest surprise was that what seemed to be coming through, it took a few days or weeks for me to realize, but very stutteringly, it was, we are the Pleiadians. Wow. Began to come through. And it was like, really? And this, yes, really, we are.
Wow.
Yeah, that's.
So what? Who do you believe the Pleiadians are?
Well, the Pleiadians, they've got planets. They're not just on one planet.
Yeah.
They have a much higher frequency. They operate from a very high frequency of love, of joy, of fun. Yep. They operate on a very on a level of just, things are just easy.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm with them, life is so much easier. Yes, when I'm tuning in, everything is somehow in tune. They work with music, they work with sounds. I mean, it's a massive subject. Yeah, I don't know how much interest your viewers have got in this, but
I'm interested, so I think they'll be interested too. I appreciate you having the courage to share this also, because I also, there's a part of me, I remember back in 2018, 2019, I put out a video on, it was like the 3 things all starseeds must know in 2019. And I was so afraid to put out that video because it was so esoteric. And I was known on YouTube as the law of attraction guy. And I put out that video and I was so scared to put it out. And that video went viral. It got like 800,000 views and like, I don't remember, like within 6 months, and it took my channel to the next level. But I want to congratulate you or commend you for having the courage to share, but also realize that I think the things that you share that you are almost afraid to share, you're like kind of like the rational mind comes in, you are almost rewarded, because the new Aquarian age is all about being a little bit weird, you know? So I say, well,
you're right on. And this is what I love about the Aquarian age. Yeah. You know how Google keeps a record of searches.
Yeah.
So about 3 years ago, if you would have written in the word gay if you wanted to search for anything that was a little out of the ordinary sexually wise, shall we say. Now people are typing in LGBTQ. All right. There's been a huge shift in the awareness of gender equality, race equality. This is all the Aquarian age, Aaron.
Yeah.
This is all about the equality of being able to be whoever you want to be.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what other people think, because you'll always find others who love who you are, because you're allowing every bit of quirkiness of you to be let loose.
Yeah, I love that. And I think as well, Bracha, when we talk about that, do you think that because we're eternal spiritual beings, and maybe we've lived other lives or have other parallel incarnations, different star systems, do you think that that drives the vast amount of difference when it comes to the different genders, the different orientations, the different all of that? Do you think that that's what influences, or what do you think about that?
Beautiful. Yes, I think you're putting it very, very well here, Aaron. I couldn't agree more with you. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've never felt as though I come from this planet.
Yeah.
Originally, so to speak. Yeah.
Have you read Dolores Cannon's books ever?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
We're on the same
Have
page.
you?
Yes, I've read a lot of them, but I know the book, The 3 Waves of Volunteers. It talks about how there was a wave of souls that came in to pave the way back in forget what it was, like the 40s, the 30s. And then after that, there was another wave that came in a little bit after that. And then the third, and now there's like these crystal star children everywhere that are all super highly evolved.
Yeah. And there's more and more ET help and assistance coming in.
Yeah. Are there any other ET beings that you've connected with in that maybe you haven't shared yet? I have a couple too, so.
Predominantly it's the Pleiadians, although once you begin to channel, as I'm sure you found out for yourself, you can channel, if you're open enough and your body is open enough and fit enough, you can channel anybody and anything, from a frog to a tortoise to another being to, it's
a vast array.
Am I weirding you out here? But I think you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. So yeah, so is there any specific other ET race, mainly the Pleiadians?
It's mainly the Pleiadians, really, that just come in so easily. So that's really where the focus is right now, and they've always got something to say. So
yeah,
they're never short of words, and so that seems to be where it is. What about you? What other races have you contacted?
I feel a connection to the Arcturians, and it wasn't only because I was told that. I've been told that by other clairvoyant people and people that I've worked with before, but I've always felt this connection. I remember when I first went through my awakening in 2012, I used to see this certain color of blue was always around me. It was either in my room or around me. And I always felt this connection. And then I've had certain dreams and certain synchronicities that have kind of led to feeling connected to it. But the first one was always the Pleiadians, and more specifically dolphins and whales. When I was a kid, at like 4 or 5 years old, I was obsessed with these Weiland books. Weiland was an artist, or is an artist in California. And he paints these huge murals on the sides of like buildings and stuff. And from a young age, I was so fascinated with dolphins and whales, and I never understood why. And then my dad was also a Miami Dolphins fan for football because he's from Miami. So it was something that always was there. But then as I went through my awakening, I just started feeling even more of a connection to them. So I don't know. And then I found out later on through, I think it was Bashar. Do you know who Bashar is?
Yes, of course.
Nice. Yeah. I'm a big fan of Bashar. So hearing him talk about dolphins and whales and how they're connected to the Sirius star constellation, I thought was just so like fascinating to me, you know?
Wow, absolutely. Yeah. And that you obviously have a deep connection with them.
Yes. Well, thank you. Yeah. One thing I wanted to ask you as well that I thought we could touch on is, in general, I feel like people right now are feeling a big calling to find out their purpose, or to live with meaning, to live with their purpose. Does astrology show or prod in the direction of like what people's purpose could be or is? I know you've done thousands and thousands of astrology readings, so I wanted to ask you that as well.
A few. Okay, it's a great question, Aaron. Astrology can show you potentials and possibilities.
Yeah.
It won't necessarily show you A, B, C, D, but it shows, these are certain talents that this person comes in with.
Yeah.
They may choose to develop them or not. And it's one of the reasons I've started to do a lot more webinars and teaching, so that I can give you the tools to work on your own chart and you find your own purpose for yourself, which is the Aquarian age. You empower yourself. And I think that that's what you do in your work, is you really help people to find their power and their strength. And in that, they come alive and their vibration has to go up, doesn't it?
Hey, exactly. Thank you, Bracha. I love that. The one other question I had about astrology as well is the idea behind astrology that we choose our time of birth?
Well, there are certainly some astrologers that would say that yes, you choose that time of birth, and it certainly is an imprint.
Yeah,
it's got possibilities. Although I have to confess, I've created other astrology charts for myself, and I've also had at different times in my life, I've had a few clients when they've had spiritual awakenings. We create a brand new chart from the time of that awakening. It's like a different person walked in. It's like, wow.
I felt that. I did something back. It's actually back in, I don't know if I've shared this that much on my channel, but back in 2012, before my awakening, about 6 or 7 months before that, I did something called dimethytryptamine, so DMT, which was something I synchronistically met somebody that was connected to someone in Peru, and it was this whole thing. But anyways, after I did that, I was never really I felt like a completely different person. So I wonder if I were to know that exact time, if that would show something different, or just in general, the time I went through my awakening, I literally felt like a different person. Like,
yes. That's like what I have certain clients who say, well, I've got my birth chart, but I really want you to read in my walk-in chart. This is when I had a different, this is when I became a different person.
What is your, I love that. And I love that you brought up walk-in, because I remember at a Bashar conference, actually, I asked Bashar about walk-ins, and because my question to him was about Eckhart Tolle, who, as I'm sure you know, Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. I asked, because his enlightenment experience was he was sucked through like a black vortex, and he was in so much pain, and then he came out, he was a new version of himself. So I asked Bashar about walk-ins, and he said that he was like a wanderer / walk-in. But what is a walk-in from your perspective? Or,
well, again, there are different definitions of it, as you know, Aaron. And I've got clients who put it in different ways. But just you have a complete change of persona. Yeah, you feel different. That's why I had to change my name. I couldn't stand being Barbara anymore. It's like, it was like, this is a different person. This is a different energetic field. So I do have a chart, a new chart that I created from that date. And it'd be very interesting to see your new chart.
When would I do it from? What time would you think? Like, would I have to know the exact date that happened? Or would
it would be helpful. Do you not remember the date?
Not the exact dates. I'm sure maybe I could. I don't know if I could even find out the exact date.
I bet you could. I bet you could. Was there not one date or around a particular date where you just felt the most significant change? You knew something inside of you had changed forever.
There was a couple times, I don't know if I know the exact dates, but there were times when I was meditating, when I was learning about meditation in 2012, where I felt completely different. And my whole life, like I felt like a completely different person. And I'd say on a scale of 1 to 10, my vibration, if it was normally about a 3 or a 4, with 1 feeling not great at all and 10 feeling amazing. And if I were to smoke or do something, I could feel a 5, but I'd drop right back down. I felt like I was at a 7 or an 8 after that. And it was like, I felt high all the time. I stopped smoking cannabis. I stopped everything. I just felt so good that I didn't need anything else. And that was in like, I can kind of remember about the time period in 2012 that was. But yeah, I'm going to look more into that. Maybe I could go through some of my photos on my iPad and try to find out. But that's cool. So, and somebody told me this too, that there was this astrology thing going around where my girlfriend was talking about how you can go on Instagram, I guess, and find out when it was created, the exact time, date, and year that your Instagram was created. And what she did is she read my chart, and she could see that my Instagram account, I could do certain things with my Instagram account because there was certain intention behind when it started, the exact time, date, and rising and all that. So it's kind of talking about what you mean, right?
Absolutely. Just as you can choose a good date for getting married, a good date for launching a business or a product, a good date. Yeah. I mean, there are certain dates that have got a lot of energy that you're working with. Yeah. And that's why people choose dates, auspicious dates for important occasions.
Wow.
That's what the kings and queens used to do in history. They used to get the astrologer in and say, well, is this a good time to go to war? I mean, we wouldn't want to use it for those reasons, but there are certain times that are really positive times. Just as the astrology showed us in January 2020, Saturn-Pluto conjunction, January the 12th, it was obvious that was going to be a very significant shift. And of course, I was talking about that in 2015. Yeah.
When it comes to, I have a selfish question here, kind of. Not really. It's related to everybody.
Anything. We love it.
So with everything that happened in 2020, with all the stuff that was going around and the masks and all this stuff, does the astrology show that we're out of that phase? Or does that show like there's going to be some other ploy or something else that comes up that's, the media uses or whatever to like really keep people in the fear? You know what I mean?
Okay, it's a great question.
Yeah.
Okay, another really good, incisive question. Okay, this year is very difficult to predict because it's a very Uranian year. So Uranus always gives you a surprise and you never quite know what it's going to be. So I will start with that.
Yeah.
I will say that it looks like the agenda of the pandemic until now is shifting and changing and diminishing in its power. The next thing that looks as though is coming on the horizon, which I think I'm sure will be to do with financial markets, the economy, food, water, supplies, and climate. Yeah. These are all things that show up in the astrology, plus the big question mark of what Uranus will bring us.
It could be a curveball.
It could be wonderful. Yeah, we don't know. It's always a surprise.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. So what are your, I guess, insights or perceptions on cryptocurrency? I figured maybe that's a trendy one I would ask you about too.
Here's a real trendy one. All right. Well, if we look at the astrology, Uranus goes into Gemini in 2025-6. So for sure by then, we will have digital currencies that will, it's going to go digital in one way or another. Now, whether it is the format of the cryptos as we have them now, I don't know, Aaron.
Yeah.
I think there'll be some shifts and changes and growth in that, but there will be a new capital. And the capital will no longer be the greed. Those who are the haves that are looking for more will become the have-nots. And those who are the richest will be the spiritual haves who want the benefit of everybody. And if we're not creating businesses and currency that are for the benefit of all, they will fail. They won't succeed. So
thank you for sharing that. It's well said, first off. And then when it comes to that as well, I've studied quite a bit, something called spiral dynamics, which talks about the different, you know about spiral dynamics? So we're moving into a higher level to where businesses now, unless they have more of a community perspective or a good for all mentality, they just don't work. Like it's like it's falling apart, but it's literally, I believe, because there's a new energy here, or the energy is vibrating at a certain frequency where businesses have to adjust to that model. And certain businesses have maybe Apple or some certain companies in some ways have done that, and they're experiencing the Tesla, you know what I mean, the benefit of that. But it's interesting to see. So I'm glad that you said that, because it's something I've felt for a while, even my own business. I have to make sure that I'm really in integrity moving forward. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And we're going to have different, there's so much to talk about, Aaron. We're just skimming the surface here, aren't we?
We are. All right. So Bracha, another thing I wanted to ask you is about just in general. I think a lot of people that are probably listening to this, they may know of like their sun sign astrology, but what is your definition of the rising, the moon, and the sun, and how they all relate? I also kind of want to know too, a little bit more about those.
Okay, so it depends whether you are coming from a traditional astrology viewpoint or whether you're coming from an esoteric soul astrology. So they're quite different.
Okay.
But just the general overview in traditional astrology, the sun is your identity, where you shine. So wherever the sun is in your chart is potentially where you're going to shine your brightest light.
Yep.
The moon in your chart is the emotional self. It's the child, it's the nurturing. This is why I'm doing the videos about the moon.
Yeah. Because
it's the part of the chart that can hold you back the most in terms of consciousness. It pulls you back into old patterns, old fears, old things, old traumas, things that you hold on to, that you're comfortable with.
Which one is this?
The moon.
The moon, yeah.
Yeah, it's your security. Remind me of your moon. I know your sun sign, but what's
Gemini moon, Sagittarius sun, and Taurus rising.
Taurus ascendant. Yes, that's this nice, beautiful body. Okay, so yes, so let's look at you. So you shine as a Sagittarian by sharing wisdom, knowledge, inspiration. The fire energy, that's where you shine. And you also shine because it's the arrow. And the challenge for a Sagittarius is to be able to shoot clearly the one arrow where you want to be and not scatter arrows all over the place. Yeah. You're going to just, and that's what you've done. That's what you've been the example of. You really stay in there and you shoot that arrow until you're satisfied that it's landed where you wanted it to land. Okay, fantastic. So that's your sun. The moon, okay, so you've got the moon in Gemini, and if I remember rightly, I think your moon's in the second house, isn't it? I'll have to look at this. So.
Yeah, you would know better. Yeah, I'm still learning about all those.
Well, I'm still learning, and I can tell you, you keep learning astrology.
So
what's that? The definition of an expert is that the more you know more and more about less and less.
Oh, so, yes. The more you know, the more you know you don't know anything.
God, yes. Okay, so so you've got this seventh house sun that reaches out to people. People love you, right? They just do. So you've got the moon in Gemini, the unaspected moon. Very, very interesting. Okay, so the moon in Gemini, you're thirsty for knowledge. You want to learn. You want to use skills. You want to learn as many skills as you can. You have no idea how many skills you've got. You may think that you're using a lot of them. Aaron, you've not touched the tip of the iceberg yet. All right.
And that's from my moon?
That's your moon.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
That is your moon. And the ascendant, so this is traditional astrology. The ascendant, your Taurus rising. So there's a sense of, as much as things can be scattering around you, going on, you have a certain sense of stability. You have something inside of you that says, I'm hanging in here and I'm going to find a way. And this is what gives you your discipline, by the way. If you just had the Sag sun and the moon in Gemini, you'd have a big trouble posting a video every day. All right. That Taurus rising saved you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you've got a lot of Scorpio in the chart. So that too gives you that, I'm going to dig my feet in and I'll do it. Even if I don't like it, I'll work through it and I'll find a way to like it.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I used to not, for some reason, I think I had an ex-girlfriend that was a Taurus. So I assumed that it didn't work out. So I was like, oh, I don't know if I like Taurus as much. And then when I found out Taurus is my ascendant, I didn't know how I felt about that. But the more I've learned, I have some friends that have all fire in their big three, or they have all air, and they tend to be a little bit more airy, or a little bit more like, as far as the elements go. But I've come to really love and appreciate the earth in my sign of Taurus, where it's like why I like good food and I like nice houses. And I'm like, I could just tell like it's a good part of me that I've learned to love. You know what I mean?
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. And Taurus is ruled by Venus. Sorry, can I go on a little more about your astrology? Do you mind?
Yeah, that's absolutely. I hope you don't mind, but I think so, I love it.
We look at Venus, which is the ruler of Taurus, and you've got Venus in Scorpio in the 6th house. So this has to do with a love of physical health, physical well-being, and emotional, mental well-being. And you love that, right?
Yeah.
You love it. You love the workouts for the body.
Yeah.
Yeah. That you enjoy, but you also enjoy the whole mind and emotional workouts as well.
Yes.
And you want to go as deeply and as transformatively as you possibly can in all those areas, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, beautiful. So thank you for that, Bracha. So, sure. And then ascendant, I've heard this saying before, that the older you get, the more like your ascendant you become. Is that true, or is that something you found?
Brilliant. All right. So in esoteric astrology, here's how this works. The sun is your present. Okay, so you're shining. This is the present. The moon is your past, the prison of the soul. That's why you've got to work out whatever the moon is doing and whatever is unconscious, whatever is subconscious. That's why I've created this series of moon webinars, because we've got to, if we're going to raise consciousness, you've got to suss your moon out in your astrology chart. And you're going to find where you're being held back. Yeah. So that you've got to work on, as you spoke about kindly on my channel. And the ascendant is your future. What you are actually moving towards this lifetime becomes the ascendant. I thought it was very interesting that you said that's what you.
Wow, I never knew that.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, thank you for that, Bracha.
Sure. Thank you, Aaron.
As well, I know you're a traditional astrologer. You've been an astrologer for traditional astrology, but what is your perception of? Because I've also had Vedic readings before, which puts me into being a Scorpio and a Taurus like moon and an Aries rising. It's so different. But what is your perception of Vedic versus traditional?
Great question. Okay. Western astrology, Vedic astrology, they both have a really important place. What is very interesting is that often they have similar conclusions, even though they use different mediums to get to those conclusions. It's amazing. Yeah. So there's a certain power in both of them. And I greatly respect the Vedic astrology, the Chinese astrology. They all have a really great place, and they're all there to empower us. Not to be dependent on, but to give you a boost. To just, show you a few signposts on your way.
Yeah. Beautiful. So like astrology in general is like a permission slip that we use. I've heard Is that how you would describe it? Or what would you say astrology is? Is it a guiding mechanism? Is it a map of where we have chosen to experience in our life? Or how would you describe that?
I'd say it shows you possibilities. And then it's up to you to develop those potentials and possibilities. And nothing is written in stone. I can see people with very similar charts, one who's very evolved and really worked on themselves, and the other who wants to stay asleep. Yeah. So you get a choice as how to use the astrology. It doesn't use you.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, thank you. That's beautifully said. I think that'll help a lot of people too, because I don't remember if I was sharing this on your or mine, the video that we did, but talking about how I used to back in the day I used to go to a lot of astrology, tarot card reading, and I would use it as a crutch because I think I valued certainty so much that it was my way of feeling safe. But I had to eventually learn how to empower myself. So I love that you're like,
exactly. The astrology is there to empower you. And if you want, you can choose a new chart for yourself.
So how would you do that? How would you choose a new chart for yourself?
Well, you'd have to have a lot of conscious awareness as to what are the lessons I really need to work on now. What are the things that I know I'm avoiding, not wanting to look at? And you could create a chart that pushes you. I did that a while ago, about way before this awakening.
How do you know what days to pick? Or
you just play around with different possibilities for about a few months. And then you go, right, that one fits. That's a really hard chart. I'll take that one. So I worked with that for a while.
But then do you do something on that day to wire it in or to start the momentum of it? Or do you just take on the identity or the belief, the permission slip that can affect you?
You take on the energies and potentials of that chart, and you say, right, I'm going to become just like you became, like how you are becoming a world leader, going to run some live events.
Right.
So you could create a chart that really puts you at the pinnacle of somebody who is an amazing world leader, motivating people. So you could have a chart that goes with it. It's a bit like having an outfit. You can have an outfit that works with it.
And then is it something that I just keep with me and I remember, or is it like, what do I do with the chart? You know what I mean? Is it just something I kind of remind in the back of my mind?
You just keep you wouldn't necessarily need a chart, yeah, because you're visualizing it, you feel it. But for somebody who might need a little boost along the way, a new chart can provide that to you. Or you work with your existing chart and you make that work according to who you want to become.
I see.
Because I could help you with your own chart, teach you through a webinar or a live event how you can use your chart to empower you to do what you really want to do. Because nothing is impossible. We are the most infinite, amazing beings, aren't we, Aaron?
I agree 100%. I love that you're sharing all this because I think that there's a lot of like traditionality to probably the way this has been done for so long. And you're taking some of the ideas and making it like more, it's like we are shifting through many different parallel realities every second. So it's like, what if we just decided this is who I am now, or this is the chart I resonate with,
That's it. And that's what you do. The astrology's got to evolve into the new earth. It can't stay the same old astrology. Not when people phone me up and say, oh, I found out I've got Saturn in the 5th, I'm never going to marry and I might end up in an accident. And this is just the old paradigm.
Wow. Yeah. So for those that are listening that maybe have been told something by an astrologer before, they've been told you're not going to be successful, you're not going to be very wealthy, you're probably not going to find love. What would you say to them about that, what they were told about that kind of stuff?
Number one, bullshit. Excuse me, I don't usually swear, but that I have to just kick it out of the court. It does not belong on this tennis court. Number one. So if you've been told that, discard it, cancel, clear, erase it.
Yeah.
Flush it down the toilet, burn it. I don't care what you do with it. That's number one. Now, there are certain challenges in everybody's chart. Okay. Mm-hmm. but they are sometimes the greatest opportunities. Wasn't your spiritual awakening the most wonderful thing and yet one of the most challenging things you went through, Aaron?
Absolute 100%. Yeah. So it's kind of what they do with it that also matters. They can change it, not realizing it's set in stone that they're destined to be not successful or single.
You can change that. Listen, you can be an Aries and you can be unsuccessful and never take a leadership position. Or you can say, right, I'm going to use these highest qualities. Each sign has a frequency, Aaron.
Yeah.
A certain frequency. So you can tune into the highest elevation of Sagittarius.
Yep.
And Taurus and Gemini, the rest of your chart. You can tune into those highest. That's why I'm writing this book now on the new astrology for the new earth. Wow. Because you can grow into those highest frequencies of the signs that you have in your chart. And they are unlimited.
Yes. Wow. Beautiful, Bracha. Thank you so much for sharing.
Great questions. You're amazing. You're a great interviewer. Wow.
Thank you. It's also because I'm like really fascinated and want to learn too. So I think you feel that too. But the other thing I wanted to ask you is because you originally changed your name, you said, right?
I did. Yes. I changed my name about 3 years ago now.
And what was the reasoning behind it?
Well, I'd gone through this spiritual awakening in 2015. Mm-hmm. It's when the Pleiadians came in and all that, everything changed.
Yep.
And I never felt, I didn't feel like I was Barbara anymore. It was like, this just doesn't fit. And I felt contorted. And so it ended up in a name change. Yeah. And
then I think it's funny, I was talking to my girlfriend last night because she has a whole bunch of friends that they're like starting, like they have, all the new kids, especially in my girlfriend's community, and I know people as this as well, but they have these very starseed names, their names are like Nature and Orion and like all of these starseed names, you know what I mean? But some of them, they're also changing their last names with that, which is what I thought was very interesting. They're starting their own lineage, and I thought that was so fascinating. Like, I don't know how I feel about it. I'm thinking about it, but it's like, I like the tradition, the Taurus part of me likes the tradition and likes my last name, but also what I think of is numerology, because the numerology in a name, like I'm not to brag or anything, but there's certain numbers that miss from your name. They say those are your karmic lessons. I don't have any missing from my first, middle, and last name. So it's like, if I change my name, I'm worried that maybe I'd have to change it to something where, did you feel like changing your name, maybe change your numerology or something, or maybe numerology isn't a permission slip that you use, or what do you think about that? Well,
changing your name is just a very powerful way of changing your destiny.
Yeah.
All right. There are different ways of doing it.
Yes.
Another way is to change location. You move somewhere else and you live in a different vibrational frequency.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are different ways of doing it. But you're not unhappy with your name. It resonates. It's good for you. So there's no need to change it. It's just if something's not sitting right, then you need to change it, you see.
I thought it was interesting too, because Tony Robbins, his last name was something completely different, but he went from Tony, but also it's maybe a little, Robbins is pretty easy last name, mine's is Dowdy. Sometimes it's like people mess up the spelling, but it's like, I still like it. You know what I mean? So I'm going to keep it.
You like it. Exactly. I mean, Eckhart Tolle, he was Ulrich.
Yeah, he was a long German last name, right? Or something.
Yeah. So, it's a frequency, but you're right. The numerology does have an effect, but you don't need to change your name. Your name is great.
Thank you. Thank you, Bracha.
This right here is the video I did with Bracha on her channel. We talk about practical tips to raise your vibration and what you absolutely must know for 2022. So watch that video right next.
The key to raising your vibration and your level of consciousness is realizing, first off, that you don't have